Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on my channel. I'm Adam and welcome to Beast Quest Beast Review Series 28, The Netherworld. So Series 28 is now finally out completely and we got all 4 of the books. I'm not a big fan of the spine cover, but yeah, it's an alright shade of green, just a bit too light for me. Bit hypocritical coming from me, so... So with this, it was an alright series as a summary. Obviously I do the beast reviews, so this is going to be my opinion on each of the beasts. As a story perspective though, I think it's just okay. It's not a brilliant story, but it's kind of okay. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't read these books already, because I will be holding nothing back, so if you don't care for spoilers, then continue watching. If you do care for spoilers, then don't watch the video, because you will get spoiled. So with that, let's get into this. So we're going to start with book number 1 of the Netherworld, Cyron, the Fleshless Killer. Design I give an 8 out of 10 to, because it's actually a nice, unique looking design. We don't get many skeletal looking beasts, and so it's already in a unique category alongside Stritor, Tyrantix, and Electro, along with a few others. And then it's based off a jackal, which is an animal which I actually kind of fond of, so I have a bit of bias towards it. But it still looks very nice and sleek as well. The abilities are agility, tail whip, sharp claws and fangs, reformment and deformment of the bones, and also he can breathe out a mist of sorts to hide his location, but also to make his opponents feel a bit nauseous or dizzy. So, an alright batch of abilities, and I gave that a 7, because none of them are like proper game-changing abilities. The reform and deform one is a game-changing one, but we've seen it a few times before, so it's not as special, but I still gave it a relatively high score for it. Actually, hold on, no, sorry, I'm changing it. I'm giving Cyron's abilities an 8 out of 10. Yeah, there we are. So, Cyron for abilities got 8 out of 10. For alright abilities. The fight is a 7 out of 10, because Alina didn't really do much, and Nolan, who is this guy right here, did a fair amount, but compared to what all the other people that were helping Tom and Lena, he didn't really do much at all. So that kind of pulled him down, really. And unfortunately affected the fight for me here. Tom did pretty much everything, and it kind of made me lose interest in it. The total for Cyron is 23 out of 30. It's a good start. Abilities were okay. The fight was not great. But other than that, it was actually an alright start to the series. I think Cyron is probably one of the best design-wise. But the others aren't. The other attributes aren't really much to be proud about. But it's an alright score. As for a personality for Cyron, me and Lucas agreed on cunning. So he's relatively intelligent, not highly intelligent, but intelligent enough to know to hide himself in the fog, take a step back when he needs to, so on and so forth. Book number 2, we have Styx, the Lurking Terror. Design I gave a 7 out of 10 to, because I'm not really a big fan of the big, bulgy beasts. But I need to give credit where it's due. That I like the design for the shell on his back. I like the overall facial expression he's making, and like the little black slits on his eyes is something which I kind of enjoy a lot as well. The abilities are 7 out of 10. As far as I'm aware, he can take a loss of hits due to his tough shell. He can breathe in and out of water, and also sharp claws, sharp fangs, and a whip-like tail. I believe he also has a ball form, but I'm not entirely sure on the ball form. So even if he does or doesn't, his ability score is still a 7. But if he does have a ball form, he can have a good chance in future tournaments that I do. But if not, then what can you do? The fight for Styx is an 8 out of 10. I do like my water fights, first of all. And this one kind of had Katja, who is this lady here, helping out Tom and Alina a fair amount. Alina, yes, again, didn't really do much. But Tom was doing mainly everything, but Katja did actually help a hell of a lot more than Nolan did. And actually showed herself to be a rather viable helper and could be a very good candidate for future Mistress of the Beasts. Then again, so does everyone really. But I think Katja, along with maybe Wraith, are the main people that could. Styx has a total 22 out of 30. Personalities, cunning and ego. Great. It's a good fight and all right looking and all right abilities, but the design is kind of basic compared to the rest of the series. So yeah, I feel like I'm missing an ability for Styx, because I feel like there would have been another ability here, but I can't find anything. No, I can't seem to find anything. Sorry. Yeah, there's nothing else for Styx really. So, whilst that is kind of upsetting for Styx, you can't say I didn't have another look. Unfortunately, I should have checked before the video, but I checked now. Up next, we have Captiva, the Shrieking Cyron. This one has my least favourite design out of all of them for this series, and that is a 7 out of 10. Whilst that is a relatively high score, tree beasts don't normally have a good reputation, and whilst this is the best looking tree beast and the best tree beast of all of them, it's not necessarily a good reputation because, well, there's only 2 other beasts to compare it to then, and those 2 aren't particularly great. The abilities for Captiva is an 8 out of 10. Well, sharp claws, limited camouflage, but also voice manipulation, and also can disorientate people by having control of a forest. But also she can vomit out this gunk or amber that can encase her victims and basically suffocate them to death. What I'm saying is, Captiva has quite good abilities, and that's an 8 out of 10. The fight is also an 8 out of 10 because Alina actually did something, and it actually shows how smart she actually is and how well she knows Tom. Because Captiva used Tom's voice to trick Eleanor into letting her guard down, but Eleanor was too smart for that and was able to spot through this ruse that Captiva was trying to make. Myandra, which is this one here, did help out a fair amount as well. So we can't say that these guys aren't doing anything. Myandra did help out, and is probably my favourite out of all of these 4 people. Not because of any particular reason, but I like the weapon she's using, and also I feel like that while she may have not done the most help, I feel like she's proven herself to be the most courageous and determined out of all of them, which is what someone would look for in a Master of the Beasts or Mistress. But Captiva, the fight was also an 8. As I said, really good. So total is a 23 out of 30. Design wasn't that good, but the abilities and fight was better than I would have thought it would be. Captiva's personality is cunning and ego, and I feel like Captiva's whole abilities and fight made it more of a beast, which I judged a bit too harshly. But I stand by what I say. I'm still not a big fan of these tree beasts. Moving on, we have Velarco the Lightning Bird. Now, I'm just going to say right now, I feel like the title for the Lightning Bird is a bit overdone. I feel like the Lightning Bird could have gone to another beast that actually may deserve it. Because Velarco, apart from these bolts, doesn't really have anything else that could resemble lightning. Maybe the Nightbird, or maybe the Nightbird, or this the Flock of Terror. I don't know. Design for Velarco is an 8 out of 10. Is probably second. It's the second best looking design out of the entire series. With the two-headed nest already, along with my bit of a bias towards flying bird-related beasts. It even goes along to these bolts shooting towards Wraith, who is this one over here. It's just a solid-looking beast, but it's not anything spectacular. The abilities is a 7 out of 10. The reason why I said a Flock of Terror as a substitute title, because it can Velarco is actually made up of a flock of Janus birds, which makes Velarco. Velarco also has strong wing beats, sharp serrated beaks, obviously increased vision because 4 eyes, but also sharp talons and agility, but also lightning bolts can shoot from her talons as well. And in the flock form, she can just barrage her victims with small minor pecks from birds that you'd expect, probably the size of the common blackbird, or scratches from them as well, so still a fair amount. The abilities obviously are the lackluster part for this beast, but I feel like this series is more focused on the story perspective, hence why I'm sounding a bit disappointed here. Because just by looking at the covers for all these beasts, compared to series 29 and 27, I kind of knew I was going to be disappointed here. And unfortunately I am. The fight for Velarco is an 8 out of 10. It took place in a revamped version of the combat arena, which is called the Arena of Beasts. So I may end up using that for a future tournament, and I know exactly which one. That'll be a story for another day, and that'll be a tournament for another year, most likely. But yeah, Velarco's fight had Wraith pretty much finishing off the beast, and already Wraith has already proven himself because unlike the other candidates, Wraith actually took out the beast himself, gave the final blow, as you say. Tom was trapped in a blue fire crystal prison that Malvel had trapped him in, and Alina was about to be murdered by Velarco. Velarco as a beast, actually, I debated this with Lucas. I wanted Velarco's nature or personality to be a non-stop fighter, because that's what I see Velarco as. In every fight he had against Tom and Alina, he was constantly on Tom's tail, attacking him, trying to knock him back, and kept coming in. As soon as she shot a lightning bolt towards him, she would just charge up towards Tom as well to just attack. Velarco, I think, is a merciless fighter, and I think out of all of them would do the best in a tournament. And I wanted Velarco to be a non-stop fighter because I feel like this would fit her characteristic more than anything. I can see where Lucas was coming from though when he tried to say that maybe ego, but non-stop fighter and ego don't really fit in well. And if you're injured, let's say like this one was, where one of her head sagged over, that one could have been just knocked unconscious, so it probably would have taken a while to wake back up. But she was probably taking a strategic step back just to try and regain herself. So maybe borderline cunning, but I need to discuss with Lucas about that. But as of now, I'm sticking with non-stop fighter, and I might try and persuade Lucas into cunning. But I need to see what he thinks. But I don't see his ego, because at the end of the day, this beast, along with the others, were controlled by Malvel. Total for Velarco is 23 out of 30. The abilities were a bit of a drawback, but the fight and design more than make up for it. Unfortunately, not by a long shot. Now, totals now. The designs is a 30 out of 40. The designs were rather underwhelming this series, especially compared to previous seasons like Series 24, 25, 26 and 27, all having great designs for beasts throughout. And 23 to an extent as well. They all had great designs, and then 28 came along and I wasn't really blown away by any designs. But hopefully next series can do better, and by looking at the designs already, I like these designs way a lot more. Abilities is also a 30 out of 40. Only a few of all the abilities are actually stood out, like Cyron's mist, or Velarco's flock forming, or even Captiva's voice manipulation. Unfortunately, they're all abilities that we've seen before, so I had to knock it down a bit for that. But as a standalone, I think it's all right, really. But I still need to stand by what I say, that unfortunately, it's not unique. None of these abilities are unique. But for fight, however, 31 out of 40. This was the best attribute for the series, but it felt like it was missing something to really feel the tension that I would normally feel in these fights. Like, if we go to the previous season, the fight's total score was 32 out of 40. But that's because I wasn't really feeling it for Gorog or Raptex. But Gargantua's fight was a 10 out of 10. Because it caught my attention, it made me feel very captivated with the fight. I felt the tension, it had everything I wanted. None of these fights really had what I was expecting of it. And that is kind of disappointing. Like I've been saying throughout this video, this series was kind of disappointing for me. As a grand total, it's 91 out of 120. Overall, this series felt a little underwhelming, considering how great Series 27 was. And to be fair, it was following up from what is 3 or 4 great seasons that were back-to-back to each other. So it obviously had a lot of shoes to fill in, and this could have been a continuation of the revival golden age of era for Beast Quest. But I think the revival age for Beast Quest has ended at Series 27, and we're into the new era, which is going to be a bit lower than that one. That's an idea for a video, actually. I can make a video where I could try and sort out each the Beast Quest series into separate eras, see which ones were the best, which ones were the worst, so on and so forth. But for this Series 28 as a total, it was an alright series, really. If it was more focused on the story more than anything, and the beasts were just there just to be obstacles. So, yeah. Now, as for my normal ranking, hold on, sorry. The grand percentage for Series 28 is 76%. So it got 76% out of the full marks it could have got. So only a couple percent less than Series 27. And many, and I believe that's 6% less than what Series 26 had. So it's all right. But unfortunately, like I said, compared to others, this is very disappointing. Now, onto the ranking. My least favourite of the series is actually Captiva the Shrieking Cyron. Whilst the abilities and the fight were good, I need to be fair when I say that the design is the most uninteresting thing about this, and I really did not want to read this book because of the design looking kind of silly and cartoonish. But I was wrong. But that doesn't change the fact that unfortunately Captiva is still my least favourite at the moment, but it could change because third place is Styx the Lurking Terror. Yeah, Styx might be my least favourite the next week or not, I don't know. But like these two don't really have much competition on being a favourite really of the series because both of them are kind of down points really for me. I could switch them round really. They're both not that good in my opinion. But they were just okay really. Moving on to second place, we have Cyron, the Fleshless Killer. Best design of the series, but the fighting abilities compared to Velarco, which is my favourite, I feel like it was missing something, especially with the fight. The abilities aren't as good for Velarco compared to Cyron, but the designs I would say are relatively equal. If anything, this one's a bit better. So if you're wondering why Cyron was not my favourite out in this series, despite having the highest score for abilities and slightly better design, it's because really I liked the ending to this story, to where now this is a major spoiler alert, but I warned you at the start of this video. Major spoiler alert here, but the ending of the story basically ended with Malvel free from the Netherworld with Tom's purple jewel in hand. Which is arguably one of Tom's most important jewels because it allows him to travel from one world to another. So, yeah. But the ending on that left it on a bittersweet ending. And whilst it's not a brilliant ending, like a brilliant bittersweet ending, the villain technically got what he wanted, meaning he technically won. And the only other time we actually saw the villain win in a series was Series 5. So I can imagine Lucas kind of likes the ending here. But from what it sounded like when I was reading it with him, it sounded like he was a bit unamused by the so-called convenience that the Janus birds were able to create a portal to let Tom, Alina and Rafe get home to Tangala. But I had to explain to him that the Janus birds are the ones that created the portal to take the candidates in the first place, and as they don't really work for Malvel, I kind of see why they decided to let Tom and Alina go home. Which also led me to think, are the Netherworld beasts even evil? Because it seems like they're just all corrupted by Malvel. Because Styx returned the jeweled belt that he stole from Tom. Velarco let them go home. And Captiva and Cyron, granted, didn't really do anything. But that's already 2 out of 4 beasts from the Netherworld in this series who prove themselves that they're actually not that evil. Which also leads me to think the beasts from Series 21, which are also from the Netherworld, are they evil? Because they could be just possessed by Malvel as well, which is what I think they are. So really, it's a bit debatable on what can class as a good or an evil beast. especially in this series. But just to summarize it up, it was a rather disappointing series to me. And whilst I can see why some people would like it, unfortunately, I probably won't pick these back up again to read them. I will pick these books back up again to put them in a tournament and maybe watch them lose. And I think the only chance this series gets to gain more appreciation from me is actually doing good in future tournaments, which I'm hoping they would. But then again, I'm only saying that just to have a bit of positive light on this. But other than that, I would say this is a mid-tier series. But anyway, that's all for this time. If you like what you saw, leave a like, leave a comment, don't forget to subscribe, press the little notification bell down in the corner below, and I'll see you next time.